Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build, and welcome back to my Redesign Newcrest save file. I know a lot of you have been excited to move on forward with this little project that we have here on the channel. I have been pretty busy covering other releases and other packs, but I'm happy to finally be back. I have been talking about this project for a while now, and I have also been working on this build for a while now. I think I started doing this right after Cottage Living came out, so that was like well over a month ago at this point. So yeah, we're finally back, and this is a family home slash generations home slash a farm. I haven't quite decided on what I wanted to make this house yet, but I'm kind of leaning towards all of those because this is a 3-bedroom home. It's definitely made for a family, definitely meant to be more of like a generations home that was built up over several generations, but at the same time I also wanted to showcase a lot of the new features of the game that came with Cottage Living specifically. So there's going to be quite a heavy farming aspect to this house as well, so I think I'm just gonna call it a generations farm or something. Hopefully you get what it means. But this house was actually inspired by quite a few anime houses. As you all know, one of my favorite animes of all time is Summer Wars by the great Mamoru Hosoda, who is one of the greatest Japanese anime directors, and that one had an amazing house. It takes place in the Inaka, or in the Japanese countryside, and the architecture is just gorgeous. They lived in like a Japanese ancestral house that the family lived in for generations. So that was one of the main inspirations for this house, as well as in many of my builds. If you recall, my very first traditional Japanese house build was also inspired by that house, which is, yeah, a build I did way back before, you know, Snowy Escape was even an idea. It's a build I did in 2019, I believe. Also, another inspiration for this build is actually the house from the anime Ano Natsude Materu. I don't know the English name for that anime, but I'm just gonna say Waiting for Summer, or at least that's the rough translation of the Japanese title. Yeah, that house was really interesting. It's very asymmetrical, and once again, that anime, you know, it's not a really good anime to be honest, story-wise, but the setting is beautiful and the art is great as well, and yeah, that's one of the main inspirations for this house as well. So yeah, before I forget, I also would like to announce that I have chosen the winner for my Dream Home Decorator giveaway finally, after like 3 months. I know it took a while. I definitely procrastinated on choosing a winner. I don't know why. It just made me so nervous because everyone was super deserving, I guess. The winner was randomly chosen, by the way, but you know, it's like it makes me anxious to choose someone because of course I want to give, you know, a pack to everyone, but unfortunately I was only given one code to give away. Apologies if it took me forever, but I finally did it, and congrats to the winner. I already talked to them on Instagram and I was able to give them their code that they won. So yeah, let me know if you'd like to, you know, see any more giveaways from me in the future and how I would do it, because you know, I'm very happy to, you know, do other packs, maybe do some challenges or something, or maybe like do giveaways on other social media like on Twitter or whatever, if any of you have any ideas on how to make it more creative, I guess, and more involved for you guys, because you know, randomly choosing a winner isn't really that exciting. You know, I'd like to make it more of a challenge or like a creative thing at least. So yeah, let me know if you have any input. Also, earlier this month, The Sims 4 has celebrated its anniversary, which is pretty exciting, and I do want to point out that I feel like out of all of the games, The Sims 4 is one of those games that's really like an unsung success stories. I don't really have time to get that much into it today, but I feel like The Sims 4 is kind of like a silent achiever, considering just how bad it was when it first came out and how so many odds were like working against it. If any of you remember the disaster that was SimCity 2013 and how that single-handedly killed the SimCity franchise, giving birth to City Skylines, the fact that The Sims 4 is still alive and kicking right now is kind of a miracle, even though I do see some potential competition in Paralives, which is a game that is set to release sometime this year, I believe, and I'm really excited to see it. I am trying to manage my expectations, but at the same time, based on what I've seen, it looks incredible. A lot of the things that we've been missing for The Sims 4, like customizability and relationships, are all features of Paralives on release, which is insane because Sims 4 when it first came out literally had bare minimum. It literally barely had any features. You know, it took them so many years to patch it to make it a pretty good game, and I would say sometime around 2018 was when The Sims 4 started to get better. I feel like when they started to, you know, add the terrain tools and, you know, open up more of the debug items and all of that stuff, I think is when the game really got better, at least from a creative standpoint. But yeah, Paralives, I'm really excited. I think the fact that The Sims 4 is finally getting a competitor is a good thing because it's gonna make them, you know, I guess, think more about their decisions and really, you know, think about what their strategy is in, you know, moving forward with the game and making it as good as it can possibly be. Maybe they'll take more risks and be more ambitious this time, like The Sims 3. As we all know, The Sims 3 was pretty broken, but I do give it props for actually having some ambition at least and innovating on, you know, the already established formula. So it's gonna be pretty exciting. But yeah, speaking of, you know, Sims 4 updates, a little while back, they also updated Spa Day, which is the first time that we are getting, you know, a refresh for a pack. And it's pretty interesting that they chose to update Spa Day, first of all, because I didn't particularly think it was a bad pack. I actually made a review on Spa Day when it came out in 2015. It's still on the channel. I was already making videos back then. If you didn't know, if you're new here, hi, I'm Leo, and I've been making Sims 4 content since 2013. I actually reviewed Spa Day when it came out, and I actually really liked it. I gave it like an 8 out of 10, and that was like a time when I was particularly harsh with The Sims because of how disappointed I was when it first came out, and I gave it an 8 out of 10, which is a pretty good rating in my opinion. So I was quite surprised and happy when they announced it because I really like Spa Day. If you follow any of my builds, you know that Spa Day probably has some of my favorite wallpapers and bathroom sets and tiles, so I'm really happy that it got an update. And it's interesting because as I was doing this, the update still wasn't live, but you know, halfway through finishing this, we finally got the update, so it's pretty interesting. And I'm glad that they also included quite a lot of functional items as well, so that's pretty cool. One pack that I would love to see updated would actually be City Living, and I'm actually quite surprised that that wasn't the pack that they chose to update first, or if they're even planning to update it at some point, because I feel like City Living out of all of the packs has the most potential, or has the most missed potential, because as you all know, I'm not really a fan of the apartment systems in The Sims 4. I think it's actually broken. Again, I'm not gonna get too into it just because, you know, I don't want this to be a full rambly video, but you know, the fact that apartments can't be shared on the gallery, you literally have to demolish parts of it, I feel like it's a sign that it's a broken system. And also the fact that it just doesn't feel that much different from living in suburban homes. Maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like, you know, City Living definitely needs an update. I think even more so than Spa Day, but you know, it's EA. We don't really know what they're planning to do. I would love to see a City Living update where the whole apartment system is revamped so that we can make our own custom apartments. That would be insane. I would literally lose it if that happens. because yeah, I feel like, you know, the apartment system is kind of obsolete now. Or maybe city living is obsolete. I don't know, maybe that's a hot take, but if you want apartments, you can totally get it without having city living, because, you know, apartments are also a feature in Eco Lifestyle. Also talked about this when Eco Lifestyle came out, by the way, but I was pretty surprised when they included apartments in Eco Lifestyle, because that's kind of like a main feature in city living, and to have it in another pack kind of defeats the purpose of it being kind of like a main selling point in city living. But you know, I still love city living, especially the items. I think city living has probably one of my favorite, you know, builds by items, and I do like San Myshuno, especially like the Spice District area, where I usually tend to build a lot of my apartment industrial builds. But yeah, I do think that city living is probably the pack that had the most missed opportunity, because the Sims 4, or like the Sims series, has had such a good track record of releasing really good city based packs. You know, Late Night was one of the best rated packs by the fans of The Sims 3. I think it's one of the highly favorited packs of The Sims 3, and in my opinion, one of the best like kind of city experiences in any Sims game is actually Herbs, which is Herbs Sims in the City, which is kind of like a console game. I feel like city living could have taken so many lessons from that, especially in representing, you know, all of the different subcultures that you would see in the city, and you know, just the city life. I feel like that's what's missing in city living, you know, because in Herbs you know, you do like these kind of like part-time jobs or gigs, and it's really fun. It, like, you have like these tattooing or like piercings, and it's pretty funny. It's actually pretty fun. And you also take like the public transportation, like you take the metro in Herbs, which is pretty interesting concept, which I'm kind of missing in city living, because, you know, taking public transportation, it's kind of a big thing if you live in the city. But to me, city living, the gaming aspect of it is a bit of a miss, but some of the content and the world itself is also pretty good. The cast is kind of meh, to be honest. I'm not really a big fan of the patterns. I think a lot of them are way too graphic, but I do appreciate the whole diversity angle that they took with city living, so that's pretty cool. So I would love to see them updated at some point. I don't know why this suddenly became a rant about city living, but yeah, let's get back into the build itself. So yeah, the exterior is pretty asymmetrical, and I wanted it to look like it was built over several generations. So, you know, it's not like a harmonious house. It's meant to look like, you know, bits and pieces of it were added over generations. The main living area is pretty open. It opens onto like a little garden area that has like bonsais. You will see me do that later in the landscaping part. Right now, we're working on the Genkan, which is kind of like a spacious entrance area where you would typically leave your shoes or whatever footwear you're wearing. And yeah, you can leave them there because everyone doesn't wear shoes indoors. And my favorite room in the house would probably have to be the kitchen, just because I feel like it just has so much personality, and I love the clutter. It took me forever to do the clutter, but yeah, I'm really happy. The main inspiration for that is actually the kitchen from My Neighbor Totoro and Wolf Children. If you haven't seen Wolf Children, I would highly suggest you check it out. It's amazing. It's probably a masterclass in quality anime movies. There, I said it. It's one of the best. It's a pretty slow-paced movie, but so meaningful and so gorgeous as well. The art style is just so stunning. I actually made a post about it. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, I have this thing called Anime Nostalgia, where I basically post a lot of inspirations for my Japanese build. I started it last year actually, when they announced Snowy Escape. So yeah, I've been posting a lot of my inspirations on there. If you want to check it out, you can find it using hashtag Anime Nostalgia. But yeah, right now we are working on the grandparents' room. So it's the only bedroom that is located on the ground floor. I specifically put this room here because it overlooks kind of like the farming area of this house. So yeah, there's like a garden area out back and you can see it from this room, and I kind of want it to feel like, you know, probably the grandparents made their living out of farming and they feel really close to the land, and you know, this is a way for them to kind of like be more attached to that, I guess. But yeah, put in some diplomas over here, some, you know, old-timey memorabilia. Also outside there's a little balcony where there is a bonsai tree, so your Sims can work on that. I don't actually know what skill it gives you. I'm gonna assume it's the gardening skill. Pruning the bonsai gives you gardening skill, probably. Also, there is another little toilet outside, just outside the grandparents' room's balcony. There's a little toilet because I've been looking at like historical Japanese houses, and a lot of them seem to have like an extra room in that area of the hallway, which is called I think it's called a washitsu. I may be wrong. Engawa. I think it's called an engawa, sorry. I'm getting all of my terminology messed up. But yeah, a washitsu is a traditional Japanese room, which is one that we are working on right now. It's basically a tatami room. This is a traditional room, but the furnishings definitely aren't traditional because this is supposed to be the main parents' bedroom. And I kind of just made it somewhat boring and basic because I imagine the parents to not actually stay here like all the time. Maybe this is more of a weekend home for the parents, and then they just leave their kids with their grandparents for school, because I imagine the parents to actually live and work in Tokyo mainly, and then the kids live with their grandparents in the countryside, because, you know, the quality of life here is a lot better. So yeah, maybe they can only see their mom and dad like once a week or something. So there's really no reason for me to make this room that amazing, because, you know, it's not really their main room, I guess. And this is the kids' bedroom. So I did envision this family to have maybe 2 kids, 1 teen and 1 child, and I did see that it's not that uncommon for Japanese families to have kids share a bedroom. I follow one YouTuber called Life Where I'm From, and he has a daughter and son that kind of share a room. I don't know, maybe when they get to a certain age they wouldn't share a room anymore, but there's literally no more space for me to add 1 extra room, so they're gonna get squeezed in here. And I will say, making this room was quite tricky actually, because I really wasn't sure what the layout I wanted, because I wanted to have some futons at first, and I tried to recreate that kind of futon effect using some of those beds that came with outdoor living, but outdoor retreat. But yeah, they just didn't work out. Something about them looked off, so I will actually replace those with a bunk bed. But yeah, because of that, I had to kind of mess around with the different levels, because I did use quite a bit of split leveling in this build, and the bunk beds look weird because, you know, the split leveling was way too high, and literally the upper bunk barely had any space. So as you can see, it's unrealistic. But yeah, I did lower it 1 step down, but yeah, it still looks weird. The Sims, if you can see the ceiling, the bunk part still looks weird. But yeah, I did my best. It really wasn't my original plan, so it's kind of like an afterthought, but I'm still pretty happy with how it all came together. You know, there's quite a bit of split leveling, but it looks pretty okay in the end, I would say. This is the kids' room, kind of like a mix between, you know, like teeny stuff and kid stuff. So there's a lot of toys, but there's also like a desk for the teenager, I guess. And also I put this little clothesline over here in this balcony, which you need to pass by the mom and dad's room to get to it, which is probably weird. But I noticed that the clothesline, you need to have 1 extra space, 1 tile, or at least like a half tile space on the right side of the clothesline so that it will be functional. But yeah, I did place test that and it is fully functional. So over here, I'm making like a shed which is basically where they would keep like their tools and stuff. Because yeah, I do imagine this to be more of like a gardening oriented family, I guess. You know, maybe they have a garden in their home, and maybe they have like another like property which is like a proper farm. I would actually like to do a farmhouse at some point, like a more traditional Japanese farmhouse, because I feel like this one is it's more of like a family home that's also a farmhouse. But yeah, I feel like the farming aspect really isn't the main focal point of this house. I feel like it definitely focused more on the family home aspect, or like the more generations aspect. But right here I'm making this little canal, so if you ride through Japan, and especially in the countryside, you would see quite a lot of irrigation like this, I guess, because of course they need to provide water for their rice fields. So a lot of, you know, houses in the countryside usually have some sort of irrigation system in front, so that, you know, the water could free flow and stuff. So I wanted to kind of carry that onto here as well. Really happy with the effect, actually. It's kind of hard to incorporate these kinds of details in just one lot, because, you know, realistically the whole neighborhood should have this kind of canal thing. But, you know, in The Sims 4 we're kind of limited to, you know, whatever we can do into this lot. So yeah, it's kind of weird. That's one of the things that I could never get on board with in The Sims 4, is that, you know, the whole neighborhood just feels like a set decoration, I guess, because it's all, you know, all of your gameplay essentially is, you know, limited to just your lot. Yes, you can travel to community lots and stuff, but, you know, you're still stuck in one lot. It feels, you know, it feels more like, you know, you're stuck in a dollhouse. And yeah, the lots are very self-enclosed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm really missing the whole, you know, open world aspect and kind of interconnected aspect that we got in The Sims 3, just gameplay wise. But yeah, I've said so many not so good things about The Sims 4, but one thing that I do love about the game is actually the build and buy mode, and also the create sim. I feel like they have really streamlined the process and make it a lot more fun and a lot less technical, which is something that I really enjoyed. And I think that's why, you know, The Sims 4 has been one of the most successful Sims games ever. I think Cats and Dogs became their best selling pack like ever, which is crazy. And I think that's because of how accessible The Sims 4 is. Yeah, anyway, I feel like it's okay to talk about this because it is like The Sims 4's 7th anniversary, and I feel like at this point we should probably be already talking about The Sims 5 and what it would bring to the table. I'm really excited to see what they announce. I don't want to speculate too much. I'm gonna leave it to other channels to do that, but yeah, really am excited to hear more about that. And yeah, also a while back, maybe last week, I put out my first Sims 4 stop motion video. So it's a stop motion of an earlier build I did last month of my underwater living build. And yeah, I'm really happy with everyone's reactions so far. I just basically wanted to experiment because, I don't know, to be honest, I feel like the old, you know, way of doing videos gets pretty exhausting. Especially because of how repetitive the whole process is. You know, you film, edit, record commentary, all of that stuff, rinse and repeat. And I feel like, you know, the whole process of making stop motion builds is a little bit different. It gives me something different to do, and it feels a lot less monotonous. I'm not saying that I'm getting tired of making speed builds or anything. This is still my preferred like way of presenting my creations and my content, but I just wanted to experiment a little bit. And who knows, if you want to see more of stop motion builds, let me know, because I would definitely love to do stop motion builds, mostly of my already built builds. Like I don't think I'm gonna do any stop motions of like new content. Yeah, we'll see. Even though I am working on the renovation for the Japanese temple builds, and I'm seriously considering making it into a stop motion format, because I think that's gonna give me like I don't know, maybe 10 hours of footage, which is gonna drive me crazy to edit. And I feel like stop motion is just way less resource intensive because, you know, the raw footage of, you know, 10 hours worth of raw footage of just the recording takes so much space and it takes so much time to edit. It really affects my productivity. So yeah, it scares me to have to edit that much footage, but we'll see. Because the plus side about doing speed builds is the fact that I actually get to talk about it. So it's you know, it's pros and cons. We'll see. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. Over here, we're working on some landscaping. I wanted to do some bonsai exhibit display kind of areas. I thought that little chicken coop right there looked a little bit weird, so I did move it into another little spot right there. Though this house isn't fully enclosed by fences, so some of your chickens might escape. So yeah, just please be aware of that. Other than that, I am really excited to know your thoughts on the whole series. It's taking me so long to finish it, mostly because I've been covering other releases and stuff, but I am really thankful for everyone who's giving me feedback and for all of the support as well. I really wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys, so thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoyed this build as well. I definitely really enjoyed it, and I definitely think this is one of my favorite builds for Newcrest. Having said that, I think that's actually going to be it for this build. I'm sorry if it was a little bit rambly, but you know, it's the 7th anniversary of The Sims, so I felt like giving myself a little bit of time to talk about, you know, my experience with The Sims ever since it first came out. But I hope you all enjoyed it. And yeah, that's going to be it for this build. Thank you so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.